Hi everyone, it's Mazanko, and today I want to talk about how I made the intro beat for the first track off of Psychosomatic Waves, Pareidolia. And for this track, it's the one where the same voice effect is used as I've been using in these videos. And as I had detailed in the video about wie drifter i stillheten, I took more complicated prime number polyrhythms and used them to create the beat. And I want to get started with that. So here we have a kick. The kick, so C kick 17, meaning that the kick is in 17. And you can check out here what the kick layer is actually doing. If we click all, yeah, so this is the beat of the kick. It's following this. So it's on 1, 5, 8, 12, and 14 of the 7-beat pattern. Okay? And length variance is slightly different. There's no velocity variance, no precision variance. I don't know if you guys know this plugin. It's called Stochas. It's actually a free open source plugin. And I've been using this for many different tracks where I need to use a sequencer. You can put in various layers into one, and you can also add some probability so that certain notes only play a certain amount of times. When it's in mono mode, all of these notes will play every time. If it's in poly mode like this, these notes will only play 20% of the time. That's going to be something I'll talk about later on, is incorporating randomization into a project. But now, for all intents and purposes, here we have this beat for the kick. I used this plugin mostly for my kick. It's called Enforcer. And as we see here, it just shows a diagram like that with all the normal stuff you're used to hearing. Okay, so now let's listen to this segment a bit longer, and I want to highlight the processing of what's happening here. So let's take a look at this. We see here the mix knob is moving, and it's going to introduce a bit of distortion as we go through the progression and then take it away. So let's play that for a bit so you can get an idea of what that's like. So you can hear that the distortion is coming back in and out. And this is something that I've wanted to incorporate more and more into my tracks because it ends up having the loops be a bit less stale. So now the second part of the beat is comprised of this sequencer in 29 and this sequencer in 23. So I'm gonna solo both of those and unsolo. The kick's already been unsoloed, cool. So now we're gonna check out these again. This is made with Stochas sequencer, okay? And we just have this happening. So you get these separate beats, except for at the end you get groups of 2. This is in the 29 one, and that's going to be against this one, which is like this, and this one doesn't have that double kick. And these are panned to the right and left a bit so that you can distinguish them. They both kind of have different pitch information. If you look here, that's not gonna, it just says frequency information, never mind that. So they have different pitch information, So, and also if we check here, this is also something I wanted to bring up. We check out the wet of the reverb is being modulated. I didn't go into that with the kick because I had gone into that a bit with Psychosomatic Waves, but here I'm going to just show you how to do this again if you're a Reaper user. So you go into this menu, click LFO, now it's on a triangle. The speed is for 37 quarter notes at 39% strength. And that's how it's moving that. No offset or anything. Okay, so let's take a look at what both of those are going to sound like together, and you're going to hear that the reverb of them is going to slightly be changing, and they're both repeating, but the rhythm they're making together will be constantly varying. And you would have to multiply 29 by 23 to actually figure out how many beats that rhythm would take. But anyway, let's get into it. So I'm sure you can hear where the reverb has been added. Okay, so that kind of creates this nice little variation, and if you bring in this kick against that, in the beginning of the track you're just getting the kick, but later on when this comes in, you're getting the kick against these. So 17 against 29 against 23, which probably sounds really chaotic, but when they're put together, you can kind of feel a sense of a pulse. And I would be kind of interested to understand what the listener listening to this would experience. I kind of experience this as like these different blocks of rhythm that are constantly varying, and I wonder how another listener would perceive them. I think it would be really hard to isolate any of the meters, especially when they're together. So now you can get an idea of what that sounds like together. So as you can see, it kind of produces this more chaotic sounding like beat, and the beat has much more of a long form. In this case, you'd have to multiply the three numbers together in order to get back to when they would cycle around. And I haven't done the math for it exactly, but it would probably take, like, it could take 10 minutes or even more for that to cycle back. And it kind of creates this cool, sort of like organized chaos that you can latch onto. And I hope that would be informative. I'm kind of going through these things very quickly because I don't think this is necessarily something a beginner would be doing. So the ones that are more deeply invested into this kind of thing, if you haven't checked out Stochas, I would recommend getting it as its free source, and then you can combine it with whatever plugin you'd like to combine it with, and kind of get that working so that you can make beats. And as I said later on, I'll get more into what these percentages actually mean, so that you can understand how that works, and so you can understand the variations of it as well. I'll show you that in another track. And thanks again for tuning in.